Okay, my dear, in this video, we are going to try to understand what is the difference between the absorption costing and activity based costing. In this video, I'm not going to focus too much on the theory, but I'm going to solve one question for you people. The data will be the same question, but I will be using the two different methods, absorption costing method and then the activity based costing method. A little bit background of the difference between these two is that in absorption costing method, uh, we actually it's more useful if you people have a small business, or maybe you have a very simple process of producing the products. If your production process is more complex and more activities involved, so then my dear, the activity based costing will be more better to use. I'm not going to discuss too much the theory. Um, let's start the question, and I'll be solving this question with the solving this question. I will be, my dear, discussing the difference between these two also. Example I'm going to consider is there is the company called Hanan Limited. It has a single production process for which the following overhead costs have been estimated for the period ending 31st December 2018. Now this company is producing three different products A, B, and C, but this is their overhead cost. My dear, if either we are using the absorption costing or overhead costing, in any case, the cost of production, my dear, it is the combination of these three components: the direct material cost, the direct labor cost, and overhead cost. Direct material and direct labor, these are the direct cost involved in the production of the product, plus both of these are the variable. The more you produce the units, the more you have to pay the direct material cost and direct labor cost. While as the overhead cost is not a direct cost involved in the production, but this is a indirect cost involved in the production of the product. For example, if you are paying a rent, or if you are paying a salary to the employee, or if you are paying a salary to the marketing team, which are indirectly involved in this business in the production of the business in production of the product. So overhead, we have some portion variable and some portion of overhead expenses fixed. As I mentioned that if you're paying a rent for a building, it is a fixed overhead cost. On the other hand, for example, if you're paying let's suppose utility bills, the wages to the employee, so much of this is a part of the variable cost of the overhead. Now, either you are using the absorption costing method or either you are using the activity-based costing method. The first two component we have nothing to do with this. This is same for both. But when it comes to the overhead expenses, then my dear, it differs. The absorption costing approach is different than the activity-based costing. If I give you a very small example, in the absorption costing method, we actually sum up all the overhead costs, and then, my dear, we consider a single factor or a single activity. We consider it a base. On that base, my dear, we divide the cost among all the three products. While solving this question, it will be more than easy for us to understand. While in the activity-based costing, its method is different. In activity-based costing, each overhead for each overhead we have their own cost driver. So we will be dividing the overhead cost basis on those cost driver. Now, what are these cost driver? We are going to it. We are going to understand it when we are going to solve this question. So let's come directly to the question. This is the question. We have, my dear, the overhead expenses. One is the material receipt and inspection cost, which is 17,000. One is the power cost, which is 20,500. The third one is the material handling cost, which is the 15,000. The rest of the data say that there are three products A, B, and C which are produced by workers who perform a number of operations on material blanks using handheld electricity power drills. The workers are paid $5 per hour. For each hour, the laborers are paid $5 per hour. Budgeted information has been obtained for a period 31st December 2018. Now, my dear, the company produced total, this is the budgeted information for the much number of the units. For product A, total number of units are 4,000, and for product B, it is 3,000, and for product C, 1,600 units are produced. Batches of material required to produce 4,000 units of the product A, it is 10, while to produce the 3,000 products of the B, the number of the batches of materials are required 5, while for the product C, the batches of material required 16 to produce the 1,600 units. Okay, my dear, the rest of the data is for the one unit. This one was for the total units produced. This one is now for the one unit. You can see that the direct material square meters. To produce one unit of the A, we require square meter 4. We require 4 square meter for direct material to produce one unit of A. To produce one unit of B, we require 6 square meter, and to produce the product C, one unit of product C, we require 3 square meter for direct material. The direct material cost per unit is given. To produce one unit of the A, and the direct material cost is 5. To produce the one unit of the product B, the material cost is 3. To produce one unit of product C, the direct material cost is 6 per unit. Okay, the direct labor. Okay, now to produce the one product of A, we require 30 minutes. This information is given into the minutes. You can see that we need 30 minutes to produce product A. We need 40 minutes to produce one unit of product B, and we need 60 minutes, means that 1 hour to produce the one unit of product C. You can see here, my dear, the data here, it's given that the workers are paid $5 per hour, but to produce one product of A, it takes 30 minutes, means that it takes half hour to produce one unit of the A. Now, if it takes 30 minutes, we can say that it takes half hour in another way. So we need to convert this into the hours, because we have the data we have. We are paying $5 for the 1 hour. So we need to convert this. We can say that this is a half hour. If you divide 30 by 60, you will get the answer half hour. Okay, number of power drills operations required to produce one unit of A is 6. Three number of three number of power drill operations are required to produce one unit of B, and two number of power drill operations are required to produce one unit of the product C. This data is for the one unit of the product A and product B and product C. Now, what is the required? Look, at present, the company absorb all overhead cost into producing using labor hours. So, as I told you that in absorption costing, we divide this overhead cost based on the one activity level, which here it is given that the activity level is the labor hours. Okay. Now, when I will be solving this question, then I'm going to explain it. The rest of the data is for the an activity-based costing. These are the cost driver of all these three overhead expense, which I will discuss when I'm going to solve the activity-based costing method. But first, I'm going to solve the same question by using the absorption costing method. This is the requirement. The existing method for the absorption or overhead cost, we are supposed to calculate the product cost per unit of each product. Now, my dear, let's start the solving the question. First, I'm going to solve the question by using the absorption costing method. To save the time, I have entered the data already here. You can see this is nothing but only I have copied the data here into the MS Excel. You can see that overhead expense 17,000, then 20,500 for power cost, and this one is 15,000 for material head cost. What does this mean? My dear, this is the total overhead cost to produce all these units. Okay, so 17,000, 20,500, and 15,000. This is the total cost to produce this much number of units. Now, the very first step in absorption costing is that we need to calculate the first we need to calculate the absorption rate, overhead absorption rate. What is the formula of the overhead absorption rate? That the total overhead cost and divide it by the total number of activities. Okay, now the question arises here, what is the base of this total number of activities and what is the total overhead cost? So my dear, let me calculate the total overhead cost. This is the my dear total overhead cost. In the absorption costing method, my dear, we add it all and then we divide among these three products based on the activity level. Okay, so this the total overhead cost is 52,500. Now, my dear, this is the this cost 52,500 is the overhead cost, but this is not for the one product. This is for actually how many product? This is for the 8,600 products. Okay, 4,000 of A, 3,000 of B, and 1,600 of the product C. So this is the total cost of the this all products produced by a company. Okay. Now we need to find out that on which basis should I divide this cost among the each of the units. It's clearly mentioned in the question. If you can see that at present the company absorbed all overhead cost into the products using labor's hour. Okay, they are using the labor hours as a activity or as a base to divide this cost. Now we need to calculate the total we have already calculated the total overhead cost, which is 52,500. Now we need to calculate this activity level, which is the total budgeted labor hours. How much labor hours are consumed to produce this much unit, which cost me 52,500. Again, I'm repeating, this is the cost of all these units produced. How much number of hours we require to produce this much number of units. Once we are able to find the total number of hours to produce this much units, this cost is not for the one unit, this is cost of the all these units produced. Now how to calculate the total number of hours? We can calculate it by this way that, look my dear, product A required 30 minutes. Okay. No, but the date, okay, if I divide it by 60, so divide it by the 60, it means that now I have converted this into the 1 hours. Okay, we will be calculating the cost later on. Let me first calculate the number of hours. So 30 minutes are required to produce 1 unit. Total how much number of hours are consumed by the product A. Product A are produced how much? 4,000 units are produced. Now if I multiply this 4,000 by 30, I will get the answer, which will be not an hour, but this will show me the number of minutes to produce 4,000 units. While I require the total number of labor hours. What I have to do? I should divide it by the 60. Now plus 40 minutes are required to produce 1 unit of the product B. If I simply multiply 40 minutes by 3,000, okay, because I told you we are supposed to calculate the total number of hours, which cost me 52,500. If I multiply this, the result will be in the minutes. I need the answer in hours. Similarly, the last product is the 60 minutes are required to produce the 1 unit of the C. How much minutes are expended to produce the 1600? If I multiply this, the need in hours. So no matter this are the total number of hours which I have spent in producing this much number of units, and it cost me 52,500. So actually this is a activity, this is a base of this overhead cost while using the absorption costing method. In the activity based costing method, we do not add it all. We have a different cost driver for each of this overhead. Okay, for each of this cost driver, for each of this overhead cost, we have different reason and different cost driver. But in absorption, we add it all, combine, and then we divide among these three products based on their activity level, which in this case is the total labor of hours. You can see products using the labor hours, not minutes. Okay, so what is the overhead absorption? What is the overhead absorption rate? Total number of overhead costs divided by total number of the activities. So total number of overheads are now divided by the total number of the hours. What does this mean? This means that this 9.375 means that 9.375 means that okay, denominator is 1, which means that for 1 hour, how much I paid, how much is the overhead expenses of the company? It is 9.375 for 1 hour. Okay. Now, my dear, let's start the question to calculate the uh, cost of each of the unit. Direct material cost, it is given here. Direct material cost for 1 unit is 5. Direct material cost for the 1 unit of B is 3. And the direct material cost of the product C is 6. So it is given for 1 unit. The direct labor, how much number of hours are required to produce the 1 unit of A? We need half hour. Okay, means that we need 30 minutes. 30 minutes means that half hour. I'm converting this into the hours. Why? Because the what we are paying to the labor is, that is, we are paying them $5 per hour. They produce this product in 30 minutes, which means half hour. So I have to pay them 2.5 for 1 unit. Okay, these are the number of workers are paid. You can see 2.5 I pay for one. Okay, because this product is produced in the 30 minutes. Similarly, we need 40 minutes to produce the 1 unit of the product B. So this divided by 60 I convert into hours and multiply by 5 per hour. Similarly, 60 minutes required. If I convert this into the hour, it means that it is a 1 hour. It cost me $5. So we are paying $5 for 1 hour, or we can say 60 minutes. So the answer will be 5. Now we go to the direct cost, or we have the data of the direct cost, which is direct material and direct labor. But as I told you, the actual task is to learn how to calculate the overhead rate. Now, my dear, we already have the overhead absorption rate, which is the 9.375. Again, I'm repeating, it means that for 1 hour, we are paying 9.375. Activity or the base for the overhead, already it's mentioned that it is a total budgeted labor hours. Now, my dear, check it that to produce the product A, how much time is required? This is the cost for 1 hour. While I need only 30 minutes. If I convert this into the hours, it means half an hour multiply by this is the overhead rate, but for 1 hour. I convert the 30 minutes into 1 hour, so this will be divided by 2 minutes will be half. See, this is the 4.867. Now, my dear, how much time is required to produce the product B? 40 minutes are required. But this is not the cost per minute, this is the cost per hour. That's why I'm converting this 40 minutes into the hour. And now I can multiply. Similarly, 60 minutes required mean an entire hours are required. So the price, this is also per hour, so the cost will be 9.375. You can see that the cost is 9.375. Let me round it. Now we can calculate the total cost of each unit. The first component, direct material, direct labor, which is the direct cost. And the third one is the overhead cost. What we have done, we add it all. We got the answer of 52,500. But this is, my dear, not the cost of the one unit. This is cost of the entire units produced. Okay, so the activity base was number of hours spent on on this number of production of the units. That's why, my dear, we calculate the total number of hours which we have used to produce these units. So those are the 5,600. Now, my dear, we can calculate the cost of the each unit. Producing the product A, it cost me 12.19 and 12.58 for product B. And for product C, the cost is 20.38. Now, my dear, let's come to the second part of this question, which is the activity-based costing. So far, we have calculated the absorption costing. If I quickly summarize, we add all this cost, which is 52,500, and we divide it by the activity is given in the question based on the total budgeted labor hours. Now, my dear, let's come to the second part of the question, which is the activity-based costing. As I told you that either you are using the absorption costing or either you are using the activity-based costing, the first two component, which is the direct material and direct labor, in other words, a direct cost involved in the production of cost, it will remain same in any case. The only question arises when we are calculating the overhead cost per unit. So let me now calculate the unit cost of the A, B, and C based on the activity-based costing. So direct material cost and direct labor cost remain always same in both cases. Even I can copy it directly from here. Okay, so these are the direct material and labor cost. Now, my dear, now we are going to compare these two methods when it comes to the overhead cost. You can see that in absorption costing, we have only one overhead absorption rate, and we have only one heading of the overhead cost of the each unit. Suppose we add up all this cost of the overhead cost and then we divide on a single activity based level, which was total budgeted hours. While the case in activity based case is different, in activity based costing, all of this three different activity of the overhead cost, it have different reason we call the different cost driver. This material cost is driven by the particular cost driver. It's given in the question. If you can read in the question that okay, an activity-based costing investigation has revealed that the cost drivers for the overhead costs are as follow. You can see for the material reception and inspection overhead cost, the cost driver is the number of batches of material. While you can see that there are, for this one, the first one, the cost driver is number of batches of material. For the power cost, the cost driver is number of power drills operations. Number of power. This is the cost driver of the second component of the overhead cost. Third one is the material handling cost, which is 15,000. What is the cost driver for this one? The cost driver for the material handling cost is the quantity of material in square meter. If you can see here, so now we can see that this is the cost driver for the third one, while this is the cost driver for the second one, and this is the cost driver for the first cost, which we called material recept inspection costing. In activity-based costing, each of these costs will be divided according to their cost driver. In absorption, what we did, we add up all and we have a single absorption rate on which we divide the total overhead cost among the three different products. Now here you can see that when I'm calculating the overhead cost, so I have three different overheads. One, material, power, and material handling. In the absorption costing, we have a single heading because we add up it all and then divide it. So as I told you that when the production process is more complex, then my dear, if you want to allocate a proper cost to each of the unit, you should divide this overhead cost according to their cost drivers. So let's come to the first one. In this case, in the absorption cost, we have only one absorption rate. While in this case, if we have three different activity, it means that for each overhead cost, we will be having a separate overhead rate, okay, which we call a cost driver rate. Now, my dear, in question it is given that 17,000 is the material cost. So this is the cost of the total products produced in A, B, and C. So this 17,000 is the material cost of this much units. On the basis of what? On the basis of the number of batches of material. Know how to do it. Look, my dear, these are the number of batches for the product A, 10. This is not for a single unit, is for the 4,000 units. You can see that there are 5 batches to produce the product B, but this data is for the entire units. So 5 batches required to produce 3,000 units. Now, my dear, let's solve this question. Look, I'm finding out the cost driver rate of the first item, which is the material receipt and inspection cost, that is equal to 17,000. Now I'm doing it one by one. In absorption cost, what I did, I add this three all here. Okay, but in the absorption costing, we'll dividing each of this component basis on their cost driver. So my dear, this is the 17,000 cost for the total number of units produced in A, B, and C. Now how much? I need to calculate the total number of batches required produced all these units, 4,000, 3,000, and 1,600. So if you can see here, so total number of batches are 10, 5, 15 plus 16, 31 batches required to produce this much unit, which cost me 17,000 in material. So first I need to calculate the total number of batches, which is 10 plus 5 and plus 16, which is equal to 31. Okay, these are the 31. Now, my dear, if I calculate, for example, if I divide 17,000 by 31 equals 17,000 by 31. So this 548 show me that how much one batch cost you. Okay, let me do it here. Divide by 31. Okay, so this is the, my dear, cost of the one batch. Okay. Cost of the one batch is 548. Now, my dear, the batches are given in A, B, and C, but these 10 batches are for the 4,000 units. What I'm going to calculate, I'm going to calculate that the question is that you're supposed to calculate the cost of the one unit. How much cost of the one, how much material cost me for one unit of A. Okay, and it is based on the batches. But this, they are given that 10 batches are used by the product A, but this is for the 4,000 unit. Now I have the rate of the one batch rate 548. Okay, but I need to calculate the total cost of the one unit. Okay, now how can I calculate the total cost of the one unit? Look, 4,000 units. Let me do it here. How many units produced by A in total? It is 4,000. How much batches required to produce 4,000 units? 10 batches are required. If I divide 10 by 4,000, it means that if 10 batches are required to produce 4,000 units, so for one unit I required 0.0025 batches. Okay, if I can give it heading properly, uh, batches batches required, let's suppose, per unit. Number of batches divided by 4,000. Now this is the my dear, for one unit I need this much batches. And how much one batch cost me? It cost me 548. Now I can calculate the cost of the one unit. One unit need this much batches, multiply by, and one batch cost me 548.38. So this is my dear, the cost of the 1.37 is the cost of the one unit in context of the material. Okay. Now let's come to the second one. In second one, I need to find again. Let me copy it here directly. How much batches required to produce the product B? Product B required 5 units to produce 3,000 units. 5 units to produce 3,000 units. But I'm interested to find out the cost for one unit. If I divide 5 by 3,000, so for one unit I required 0.00167 batches. For one unit I required 0.00167 batches. And how much one batch cost me? One batch cost me 548. 81 cost me 17,000. But one batch cost me how much? It will be divided according to their batches used by the product B. So this is cost of the material and receipt inspection, but for one unit. Now let's come to the product C. Product C, how much batches are required? 16 batches are required to produce 1600 units. I'm interested in one unit. So how to find 16 divided by 1600? One unit, for one unit I need 0.01 batches. One unit of C, and how much one batch cost me? 548. Now you can see, my dear, in this case, in activity based case, we have absorption, the cost driver rate for the only one of the overhead cost, while in the absorption we were having the same for all the three. Okay, now in this case, in the activity based costing, the power cost has their own cost driver. We will not divide, we will not sum up it all. What is the power cost? The power cost is 20,500. This 20,500 is the overhead cost for how much products? For the 8,600 units. 4,000 of A, 3,000 of B, and 1,600 of C. This is the total cost of these all units. Now we are supposed to identify the cost driver. The cost driver for the power process is number of powers drills operations. Here the number of power drill operations are given, but interestingly, this is given for the one unit. In previous case, we convert this number of batches into the one unit, but here the data is given that six number of power drill operations are required for A, three for B, and C for the. So total number of batches to produce this much units, 4,000 units are how much? We need to find out. Now let me come here. The Let me find out the cost driver rate for the second component of the overhead cost, which is power process. So total number of drill operations. Okay, what is the power process cost? It is 20,500. 20,500. So power process cost is 20,500. Now to find out the cost driver of the power process, I require total number of drills operation, because this is the cost, not cost of one unit. It is the cost of the all units. So how much number of drill operations were required to produce this much units? Okay. For one unit, okay, these are the number of power drill operations for one unit. For the 4,000, if I multiply this by the 4,000, means that 24,000. If I multiply this to 24,000 of the number of power operations cost me 20,500. Not only this one, but the other product also. And plus now the number of operations required in the product B. But again, this is not cost of the one, this is cost of the all the units. So I'm finding out the total number of operations. 2 multiplied by 1600 units. Now, my dear, how much total number of operations are required once I multiply this with their number of products? If I multiply it and enter it, the 6,200 operations total are required, which cost me 20,500. Now I have to find out the cost driver rate, same like we did in the absorption costing, but that was same for all. What does this mean? It means that one it means that one drill cost me 0.057. Okay, one drill cost me 0.057. We don't need this practice again because already have the we have the batches data for each of the unit. So this is the, again I'm repeating, this is the 0.057 means that one drill one drill cost me 0.57, or I can say 57 cents. If one cost me this much to produce one unit, how much number of drill operations required? Required six. So six required for one, and one unit and one power drill cost me 0.57. So this is, my dear, the cost of the one unit of the A. Okay. Now, how much number of drills are required to produce one unit? E. 3 are required in B. So 3 multiplied by, and one power drill cost me 0.57. How much power of number of drills are required to produce the C one unit? We need 2. And one power drill cost me 57 cents, which is okay. Now this is the 2,500 is a process overhead expense, but for all the units. The question is that we are supposed to find it for only one unit. That's why I divide this 20,500 pieces of the grill operations, which is a cost driver, to find out the cost of the one unit. Now I just simply check the third one is the material handling cost, which is 15,000. Material handling cost, which is 15,000. What is the cost driver? The cost driver for material handling is the quantity of material squared meters. And interestingly, you can see that again, data is given for the one unit. To produce one unit of the product A, I need how much square meter of direct material? 4. This is for one unit. And this is 6 for one unit. E required to produce one unit of product C. No matter this, the total expense 15,000. This is actually a total material handling cost of the producing all these units, not for one unit. What we need to do, we need to do this 15,000. We are supposed to divide it among these three products to calculate the cost of the one unit. But for that, we need to calculate the cost driver rate. How much is material handling cost? It is 15,000. Let me, yes, this one, copy it here, 15,000. This is the 15,000 of the total material, the total for the total products. Now, how much? You can see. Let me show you from here. For one unit, we need 4 square meters to produce the product A. For 4,000, how much meter square we required? Okay, because this is not the cost of the one. This is cost of the all the units produced. So what we need to do? 4,000 multiply by this 4, then 3,000 multiplied by 6, 1,600 multiplied by 3. It means that I will be able to know how much total square meters are covered by the product A, B, and C. So 4 are required for the product A. How much is total units? 4,000. Then plus how much for one is required? 6 for 3,000 units. 6 for 3,000 units. Then plus to produce the C one direct material square for 1,600. For let me check it again. 3 for 1,600. 3 multiplied by 1,600. So the total square meter the material required is 38,800. Now look my dear, this is the 15,000 is the total material overhead cost. For what? For the total material. Now if I divide this 15,000 by 38,000, show that $0.3866. It show the cost of the one square material. 1 square meter cost me how much? 0.388. Now the product A consume how much? 4. So 4 square meters are required to produce one unit. 4 are required to produce one unit. And what is the cost of the uh, 1 meter square of the material? That is 0.386. And 4 are required for the one. So if I multiply this, it means that this much are required for the one unit. This is the cost of the one unit based on the square meter, material square meter. How much need for the one unit to produce the product B? We need 6 square meter to produce the one unit of the meter B, and 1 meter cost me 0.3866. Product C required 3 square meter to produce one unit, And how much 1 meter cost me? 0.3866. So now this why. Look, this is the 1700 is for total. For one, it is for each unit it is 1.37, 0.91. Now you can see that all the overhead costs are calculated for each unit separately, while in the absorption cost we do it all collectively. Okay, in absorption cost we do it collectively, while in the activity base we calculate this 50, we, let me show you. We calculate this one based on their cost drivers. Okay, you can see. Now you can calculate the total cost of each unit. This, yes, these are the overhead cost, plus this is the direct labor cost of one unit, plus this is the direct material cost of the one unit. So one unit cost me 13.82. According to the absorption costing, it cost you 12.19. Okay, you can see here. Now calculate the cost of the one unit. These are the three overheads, plus again direct labor and direct material cost. You can see that these are the total cost of the one unit of producing A, B, and C using the activity-based costing. While this is the uh, cost of the each unit while using the absorption costing method. So what is the major difference you found? The major difference you found that these overhead cost by using the absorption costing use a single cost driver, or I can say the activity which was given as a labor hours for all of these three. Okay, we absorb it. Okay, and here in the activity based costing we divide the same overhead cost based on the three different cost drivers. Okay, so this is the major difference between these two. Rest how to calculate this for one unit. Now it's a little bit technical, but you need to understand it. Then my dear, you can do it. Okay, thank you. Hopefully this video